Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay. Gays, whites, Jews, token minorities, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the Bible. They might study details, but they don't know. They don't know what it's like to be in the divine order. They don't know God. They don't know. I'm the only one who knows. And since whites, Jews, and gays, certain ones, are trying to pretend that they're the experts, I have to emphasize that they do not know, and they're disgracing themselves and their families to the extreme, and God commands them to stop pretending. So we look at the first two sections, right? We see the events that have to do with the unleavened bread, the Passover lamb. Okay, so the bread is missing something, is what is suggested in the phrase unleavened bread. And whether people like it better unleavened or not is irrelevant. And that goes back to the teaching, right? So the yeast of the Pharisees versus the yeast of God that spreads throughout the bread. So it has connections to that no matter how you slice it. And so they're sacrificing the Son of God so they can be evil, is how their religion plays out. When you look at it in terms of what it is, obviously, but certainly in terms of the story. Okay, in the story, the Jews are rejecting Christ. Only those who accept his arguments and obey God through him are accepting Christ. The other people are acting like serpents. A brood of vipers is what they're called. Isaiah called them a children given to corruption. That's very key in this. So their festivals are actually rituals that are satanic rituals. And if you think you have a counter argument, please present it. If you think that you should put diplomacy over telling the truth, please make your case. So then in the Last Supper, we see that he says that, you're breaking bread for a reason, to come into the body of Christ, and you're drinking the wine, which symbolizes being willing to shed your blood for God, with an emphasis on thinking about what it means for Christ, the Son of God, to shed his blood for God. Okay, to pick up your cross and follow him. We see in Hebrews, right? You have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And we see these crazy LGBT people and whites and Jews in the governing class, token minorities. They're trying to twist things because they're afraid to man up. They're afraid to face their inferiority complexes. They're afraid to serve God. So they twist it. And they persecute people who tell the truth about this. So then he brings up the fact that the cup and the wine have to do with the new covenant. The new covenant. The old covenant is void. The new covenant is rally to God's Son and obey God through his Son. The old covenant was inferior to the new covenant because it came through, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and so on and so forth. It came through and was reinforced by these people. But the new covenant comes from the top martial artist ever possible, the Son of God, his soul, and that's what that symbolizes. And that soul was being prepared in the generational spiritual bloodline that was, generating righteousness more and more every generation until it culminated with me. I have to tell this in a way that helps you understand. No offense to anybody, but it's stupid to believe the Jews or the white man or token minorities or anyone else about this. My goodness, you can't tell the difference between me and them. You can't tell the difference between Rick Moranis and the top martial arts ever possible, between George Bush and the top martial arts ever possible. It's pretty straightforward. So they start discussing who's the greatest among them. Now, the greatest must serve them, but not like a slave, must serve them like Jesus serves them, in their rightful place in the divine order, wherever it may be, okay, with all their respect and tact and everything else. So then he goes and tells them to, get the swords to complete the process, and they're symbolic of duty. The sword of the Spirit, the cloak of zeal, and a bag to store the fruits of God. He also brings up that Satan wants to sift through him and test him, and when Peter falls away and returns, he should strengthen his brothers. Okay, so then Jesus prays on the Mount of Olives, and that connects to the oil of joy, the oil of righteousness, the oil of generational anointment. And his sweat is said to be like blood on the ground because part of your carrying your cross is the mental stress, what have you. Then Jesus is arrested as a character in the story, And so as he has a certain strategy, he tells them not to strike. Not that people can't strike, but they have to follow God's plan. They should obey God through me. Okay, God has given me the time. The Father knows the time, and he's given it to me. No one else knows the time. And because Western culture is so disgraceful that they persecuted Christ and crucified him, we see that the guards are mocking Christ, and they're doubling down on the fact that Western culture is very, very disgraceful. Greco-Roman culture that took over the West, the barbarian cultures before that, what have you. And so then he's brought before Herod and Pilate, what have you. So we see the distinction between Christ admitting he is who he is, and Peter disowning Jesus and denying Jesus. After my flesh dies, people out of time.